Tip of the Spear is the best mission in Bungie's fantastic Halo Reach, a triumphant romp which features so much of what we all love about the series. Whether you're a fan of Halo's more cinematic side, its sandbox gameplay, or terrific level design, you will be very well catered for, with little more than a minute ever passing without something new and exciting happening. It is also a vital part of Reach's campaign, helping raise its intensity at just the right moment, as the game nears its second, rather more depressing half. Before we crack on proper, here's what happened prior to Tip of the Spear beginning. New recruit Noble 6 joins a squad of Spartans known as Noble Team to investigate the cause of a communications blackout on the colony world of Reach. The group are shocked to discover that rather than the problem being caused by human interference as first suspected, it has in fact been caused by alien enemy the Covenant, who soon make their presence known. Heading to an Oni research facility named Sword Base, Noble 6 and company fend off Covenant attacking the base and link up with Dr. Catherine Halsey, who shares her belief that humanity's sworn adversary are searching for information pertaining to their religion. 6 and squadmate June then tackle a reconnaissance mission under cover of night, which concludes with them discovering an enormous Covenant invasion force preparing to attack the planet. Armed with this information, the UNSC decides to take the fight to their enemy rather than resting on their laurels, which is where Tip of the Spear begins. The level gets going with one of my favourite Halo cinematics as UNSC and Covenant forces charge directly at each other. I've seen in the past some criticism that this is not how futuristic conflicts will likely play out, and I actually completely agree. This is not really how wars are fought even in the present day, and these scenes are more reminiscent of how two medieval armies would face off against each other. Nevertheless, I do also believe that we can sometimes suspend our disbelief and simply enjoy what is presented to us, and this is definitely one of those occasions.
6! Can you hear me? 6, you alright? I could use some help.
On my way.
After Cat fails to keep control of the warthog you're in, something of a running theme we'll return to shortly. Control is handed over and you battle your way up a hill using a grenade launcher. This initial section up to destroying the first of 2 anti-aircraft guns is exceptional. There are some, I'm sure, who would have liked to have been involved in the skirmish depicted during the cutscene which kicks off Tip of the Spear, but realistically, there was never the possibility of that happening. Prior to the release of Reach, Bungie had demonstrated their mastery of the Xbox and Xbox 360's hardware time and time again. The incredible scale of the tank sequence in Assault on the Control Room in Halo Combat Evolved, or the complexity of the encounter with 2 Scarabs in Halo 3's The Covenant, are both great examples of them being able to squeeze every last drop of power out of the systems they were working with. As powerful as the 360 was for the time, and how skilled a developer Bungie were, making that introduction playable was never going to be possible, as there's far too much going on at once for the hardware to handle. However, I think Bungie managed to do the next best thing. While events you take part in aren't quite as spectacular, there is still a lot going on, with Covenant troops and vehicles present in great numbers, and dropships regularly ferrying in reinforcements. That's not what I'm most fond of about it though, although gameplay-wise, it's all excellent. What I love is that here and throughout the rest of the level, Bungie keeps you connected to the wider conflict taking place through the use of space available to them outside of the immediate play area. The sky is full of vehicles, there are heated engagements taking place in the distance at ground level, and once you destroy the gun, you're immediately shown the results of your actions as the UNSC Grafton, UNSC Saratoga, and several longswords arrive to rain fire on nearby Covenant forces. Making the importance of the UNSC Grafton to the war effort clear and obvious early on is crucial too, given what happens at the end of Tip of the Spear. Having an understanding of that makes the mission's closing scenes hit all the harder as a result. With the first anti-aircraft gun destroyed, it's time to get a wriggle on.
Noble 6, there's a mining facility near your location. Covenant are using it as a command outpost. Troopers on site have already engaged.
Let's talk about Cat's driving. Cat's driving is atrocious, and there's a reason it's become a bit of a running joke in the Halo community. Here she drives off a bridge and then decides she doesn't want to continue on. Here's another of her having a tough time crossing that same bridge before she again immediately gives up. On this occasion, just meters down the road, she stops for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And finally, here's the worst of the bunch. I jump on a stationary warthog to do some exploding, and I'm having a pretty lovely time. But no, says Kat, absolutely blooming not. She hops in the warthog, moves it towards the edge of a cliff, and then reverses straight off it. At a certain point, all you can do is laugh. I wanted to use 4 clips which occurred mere minutes apart, if that, from a single playthrough to demonstrate her staggering incompetence as it happens all the time. To put it kindly, AI drivers in Halo games have always had the occasional issue with pathfinding, but it particularly stands out to me in Reach. Tip of the Spear is the worst offender, as the problems even occur on narrow roads where you'd think the path forward is one relatively easy to navigate. It creates a big disconnect between the idea of Kat being a highly trained super soldier, the best of the best, and what you actually see on screen. She's less a wizard behind the wheel and more akin to a drunk toddler, acting almost at random. Because of this, what is most of the time a fast-paced, action-packed mission occasionally veers off course and becomes a slow and frustrating one. And as funny as Kat's mistakes can often be, criticism does have to be levelled at Bungie for it, as it often borders on the ridiculous. Best to just take the wheel yourself, I find. Well, most of the time at least. Reaching a mining facility, if you've managed to survive your companion's weaponised incompetence, your next task is to fight through it to reach the second anti-aircraft gun. I really like the radio message announcing the presence of an elite zealot, who you can then choose to hunt down.
New intelligence. Friendly forces near the Covenant outpost have sighted a high-value target. An elite zealot, in fact.
A zealot? We're onto something.
Eyes on the prize, Rover. Take out that zealot if you get the chance, but keep moving toward the spires.
If you don't fancy taking on one of the Covenant's stronger soldiers, you don't have to, and if you do, you'll need to be quick, as he doesn't hang around forever. You'll also be rewarded with an achievement and a message of praise if you're successful.
High-value target has been neutralized.
The facility itself is another layered industrial environment with lots of verticality and different angles of approach. What I think this area and quite a few other parts of Reach demonstrate is that Bungie continued to improve their level design right through to the point they moved on to other things. Those of you who have watched some of my other videos covering the series will know that I can be quite critical of Halo's indoor or more enclosed sections at times. They've always been used brilliantly as tools for pacing, giving the games a unique flow between open and narrow, but their layouts or their repetition I've not always been a fan of. Halo Combat Evolved struggled in this regard, as did Halo 2, while 3 showed a marked improvement, but it's in this game that Bungie truly reached the heights of their powers. You can see it here in Tip of the Spear, in many of the encounters in Exodus, in the battle through the shipyard in Pillar of Autumn, and there's plenty more examples I could highlight littered throughout the campaign. I pretty much always enjoy the less open side of Reach due to its variety and consistently excellent level design, which can't always be said for other entries in the series. Making your way back outside, it's time to head to the next anti-aircraft gun, housed in another thoughtfully designed area. It's set up in such a way that you can easily circle it as you clear out the huge amount of Covenant protecting it, and it essentially builds on the layout of the first, putting your skills to the test in a space that offers a similar challenge, but is far more expansive. After destroying the gun, you fend off a final wave of baddies before more allies are dropped in, but you won't be hanging around for too long yourself.
Well done, 6. Only needs up-close recon on those spires. We're gonna fly you the rest of the way.
Like the events which take place after you destroy the gun towards the beginning of Tip of the Spear and the battle you can spot raging in the background throughout, your short journey by Falcon helps lend an incredible feeling of consistency to the level. As mentioned earlier, you never really have the opportunity to get right into the thick of things, but you definitely feel like you've at least seen most of what is happening by the time you reach the mission's final segment. On balance, I would say I prefer the similar sequence featured in Exodus. Watching the city fall apart from your vantage point is fascinating, and there's generally a bit more going on during it, but this one is still entertaining and its length makes it the perfect interlude. This attention to pacing is on full display during the majority of the rest of Tip of the Spear too. The level lasts around 15 to 20 minutes total, and Bungie manages to fit a whole lot into its runtime. You have the vehicle section around the first anti-aircraft gun, firefights through the mining facility, another vehicle section around the second anti-aircraft gun, the Falcon gunner sequence, and last but not least, a final on-foot section around the spire. Not only are you kept constantly moving, but you're also constantly doing something different from whatever you've just done prior. A massive battle taking place on multiple fronts would be a very dynamic thing, and so the relentless pace the mission maintains absolutely makes sense given its wider context. I also want to quickly highlight the music here too. The use of the wonderful track Unreconciled really helps amp everything up, and it's a piece that is used in various forms to great effect throughout. Whenever I think of it, I always think of Tip of the Spear first and foremost. Crash landing near the spire, you're joined by George for the mission's final stretch.
Crew's dead, we shouldn't stay here.
In my mind, attacking the spire is almost an extension of the 2 visits to the anti-aircraft guns, except this time you have to do it on foot, making it an even trickier proposition. The area's layout matches both pretty closely, with tracks around the outside, but the lack of a vehicle means you need to stay on your toes and use the jetpack provided to maximum effect in order to reach your destination unscathed. Once inside, you'll eventually reach the spire's controls and drop its shields. The UNSC Grafton arrives to blow it up, but is then itself destroyed by a gigantic Covenant ship which appears overhead, and suddenly all your hard work seems to be for naught.
New contact. High tonnage.
No, somebody tell me this ain't happening.
UNSC Frigate Grafton, do you copy?
Grafton is dust. We need to get out of here now.
Tip of the Spear is the standout mission in Halo Reach, which is made all the more impressive given its campaign as a whole is one of the strongest in the series. It includes everything that makes Halo amazing combined in exactly the right amounts, whether that be its mix of on-foot and vehicle sections, its cinematic qualities, or its solid pacing. Story-wise, it's also vital as it provides the build-up that is absolutely necessary to ensuring the next level, Long Night of Solace, lands with maximum impact. Much of the time in Tip of the Spear, it seems as if you may genuinely be helping to turn the tide until you reach its conclusion, where the true power of the Covenant is put on full display. You then destroy that very ship in the next level, evoking feelings of triumph again as you get your revenge, before that too quickly proves to be a worthless endeavour. But regardless of whether your actions were of any real consequence, Tip of the Spear is an engrossing experience and one I return to frequently. It's not just the best level in Reach, but one of the best in the entire series. Thanks for watching the video, boys, girls, and terrible Spartan drivers. If you had a spectacular time, do consider showing your support for the channel by liking, subscribing, and letting me know your thoughts. And touch wood, we'll catch up again soon.